Well, our team put us in a tough spot. Now's the time to make some decisions. What's on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to episode number 10 of our franchise mode with the Buffalo Sabres. We are back here in a rather interesting spot as we are in the middle of our season, a couple games past the direct middle of the season, where our team is currently 20-19-4. So overall, 20-23. However, the last 10 has been pretty good for us, 7-3 in those games. So to kind of make some context, right? We've been kind of battling, some personnel. We've been trying to figure out who works well together. We've been trying to figure out how to make this team even better. And the thing with that is we have a ton of young talent. And when I mean we have a ton of young talent, we have a ton of young talent. So we take a look over here and you look at kind of our top players here. You see Dahlin, 26. Thompson's a little bit older, 29. You have Tuck, who's 30. Benson, who's 21. We'll skip over Skinner for a second, but other than him, Power, 24. Cousins, 25. Peterka, 25. Krebs, 25. We have Savoy still in the AHL at 23 years old with 84 overall on him. Middlestat, a little bit older, 28, but we have Kulik down there, 22. Jack Quinn, 25. We have a really good young core here, as well as our goalie being Dylan Levi, 25 years old for him. So we have a young core, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, whenever you see some of our aging players on our squad, sometimes they just get pushed out just because of what you need to protect for the rest of your team, right? And in this case, we have a ton of young talent, and you could see, where are they? So, not necessarily Ostlin here, but mainly Savoy and Kulik, both 84 overall, both young, that I want to be able to bring up because they're good enough, or at least, overall-wise, they're good enough, but there is just literally no spots available to kind of rectify that situation, right? Because our team's not doing well. Realistically, we're middle of the pack right now. We need something to push us over the next level. And along with wanting to get those young players in the lineup in the NHL, the other kind of thing we noticed is our defense. So obviously we have a really good 1-2 punch of Dahlin and Power. Power not playing great recently, but we have some good young players there as well, along with Brock Faber. Obviously, in real life, he's a lot better than an 82 overall, but in the game, he's still figuring out as a young player in the simulation that is, this game. But other than those players, we have a couple of fill-in players, and I'm talking about Dumba. We have DeMello, and we have Johnson down there. So we have a couple of players that we could definitely upgrade. And I think in order to take our team to the next level, that's something we have to address first. So in this trade, so spoiler, we're making a trade. We're going to be getting some upgrades on our defensive side, right? We've needed some help along with Dahlin, along with Power. We have another good left defenseman in, I don't remember his first name, but Parks, that we've seen before. So super excited to have those good young left defensemen, but at the same time, we need to have a good, balanced right side as well. And in this trade, that will do it. So now you may be asking, whoa, you got one of your top prospects in this trade, and yes, we do. So let's just break down what we're giving up. So in this one, Dylan DeMello, right, we got him last year, at a point where he actually was a really good overall, and we got him in a bigger trade as well. He's done okay for us, right? He's played pretty good plus-minus wise, plus 13 last year. In 40 games, 16 points. Not looking for a guy to, like him to put up points, but he was there. He did a little bit, and he did exactly what he should have. This year, 5 points in 43 games. Again, we're not looking for points from him. Even plus-minus, 17 penalty minutes, whatever, right? So we're not really worried about what he brings. But he's also been playing either first or second liner. I think we moved him around more recently. But a guy that realistically is a third line, right defenseman. And in this case, along with the age and his kind of his salary, right, $3 million, we're getting rid of that in this trade. We're getting a little bit of an upgrade as well. But then our next player is Isaac Rosen. So the unfortunate part about this trade is I did not want to give up Rosen or any of our younger players, But if you take a look at our team, right? So we have Benson, 21 years old, obviously going to be our top line player. What would imagine to be for a good long time here. Skinner, he's our number one left wing right now, but that might change. That's foreshadowing. But our next couple of players, though, Peyton Krebs, 25 years old. Don't anticipate getting rid of him anytime soon. Along with Kulich, who, is ready to come up, is, coming and is there, right? He's been down there. Although that performance isn't great, he was playing behind, Benson for a while. He's playing behind Krebs for a while, playing behind Rosen for a while. So, he's ready to come up, right? 84 overall. Plus, worst case scenario, we bring up somebody else and, kind of switch it around. But Rosen obviously is doing, pretty well. He's a little bit, as far as on the stat sheet, better than Kulich. But in this one, right, he's going to kind of get edged out by overall. And this one, with Kulich being 84 overall, 22 years old, so he's younger and better overall than Rosen. You have Krebs and Benson both, already up there, which is already our top three, left wing spots. Our center spots are all full. And our right wing situation is going to be taken care of in another trade that may or may not be right after this one. But like I said, and I've always said, in order to get something in this league, you got to give up something. And in this case, right, he's going to kind of be edged out. Plus, we have a couple other good young players down here coming up. And, of course, the future drafts as well will produce us some good players. So I'm not going to be really in a rush to replace, one of our top prospects, just because of all the good young players we already have in the NHL that, will be in a pretty decent spot. So that's the reason behind those two guys. A couple of AHL, or I shouldn't even say AHL, but unsigned UFAs right now. So, not even really going to mention them, but a little bit of trade value going back to the other side. Then we have Brett Pesce, who is always a good, reliable option in Arizona. Defensive defenseman, right-handed shot, 86 overall. Obviously, playing in Arizona, your plus-minus will never look good. So, minus 23 in the year. So, again, not great there. But, again, we're not getting him. And he's all of a sudden going to be like, nah, I'm a terrible player. I'm going to be the best defenseman in the world, right? He has a role. He usually sticks to it. And usually, he's pretty good in, in the games itself. 5.6 for another 3 years. Not loving that contract, but we do have the money to spend. So, I'm not really too worried. And then also to make it even, throw in a left wing prospect. Didn't really love that player. He's not really doing great, but that's kind of the only real player that made a little bit of sense. So yeah, that is the trade. And in this one, we will be acquiring $2.6 million worth of salary. So again, we have a little bit to spare. Plus, we still have some more we can spend if we really want to. But will this one go through? No. So we add in a first-round pick from our side, and we also get back Arizona's or one of their third-round picks from this year. So that does go through. It helps us out in the back end, and obviously you never want to trade away your prospects, but we get a good player in return. All right, our next trade is on your screen now, and actually this is not the one I originally intended on. There was more of a blockbuster trade that I was actually this close away from completing, and they just did not want to accept it, right? Try to throw extra draft picks and everything. It didn't work. So this one, let's just give some context, right? So Jeff Skinner, we talked about it in the last few videos, that he is getting older. His production's still there, which is good. But at the end of the day, he's going to want another big extension, which he does. I did check before I, try to facilitate this trade, and he still wants $9 million going into next year. So along with 3 years, I think it was 3 or 4 years. Which will take him to 38 years old, $9 million. I mean, we have good young talent, which we'll get to in a second. But overall, it might be time to move on from him. We haven't been doing it, on the ice. It's not just him. We got some other trades we're doing. But in this one, we're going to help out with everything. So this one, like I said, Jeff Skinner, coming off a career year, 92 points or something like that? 92, almost 40 goals. Did incredible. But it's a good thing because we made it all the way to... Oh, there's no playoffs. We didn't even make the playoffs. So obviously we got some work to do to get back to the playoffs, and this trade's going to start with it. So we talked about Skinner. This one, Jack Quinn, former 8th overall pick, back in 2020. So we're 7 years into this. He's an 83 overall. if we given what we've seen from him after the first couple of years there, 37 points, right? That was his first full year. Pretty good year. Next year, even better. Okay, perfect. So now we gone from good, right? Good rookie year. Sophomore year was even better. Then you regress back down a little bit. Then you stay the same. Then now this year, you're going to be doing about the same thing. So I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously, it's a role thing where he's on the third line. But unfortunately, I can't really move him up either just because of who's ahead of him and just production's not there. So we got to get rid of him, right? 25 years old. He's still young. He's going to want a good size extension as well. I don't think I mentioned that. So 2 forwards that, will take up some spots. So the next thing is you look at our team. We are pretty solid throughout. Lots of good young players. We have Savoy waiting in the wind as well. But our left-wing situation. So why trade Skinner now and not the trade deadline, not in the offseason? It's because if you look at our team, right? We have Benson, we have Krebs, we have Kulich, who I want to bring up. 84 overall at 22 years old. He's at that point where he's ready. Well, at least his overall says he's ready. Is he actually ready? I guess we'll find out. But in order to do that, we got to get rid of somebody. In this case, Skinner and Quinn are going to be it. And what we're going to do on the other side will fill back in our spots here. So along with Skinner and Quinn, we're getting rid of our backup goalie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, which is always one of my favorite names to try to say in NHL. But, I mean, it's just not doing it, right? So ever since we took over, he had one good year as a starter. Levi was down in the AHL, trying to get him some games. Backing up 6-12, 8-7, not really doing great. This year, again, off to a not great start. 27 years old, still got some time to grow a little bit, but at the same time, we're trying to win now. So it's time to win now, and that's what this trade helps with, along with a 4th-round draft pick, going over to the Ottawa Senators. Now, coming back in this trade is going to be forward Drake Batherson, so a player that is 28 years old, so we get a few years younger at least, and he's kind of on the second line, so that's kind of his numbers and what they show. But, 60s, 50s points, power play, penalty kill, should be a somewhat lower contract, in the kind of $4 or $5 million range. So that'll help a little bit, as well as Jacob Chychrun, who, again, is not doing great because Ottawa's not doing great. But if we look at what he could do, 35 points, 30 points, anything in that kind of area, I will. And overall, he could be a really solid option for us. Can play both left defense or right defense, and so can Owen Power. So I've been thinking about moving Power to the right side because I think that's where he plays in real life. So I'm going to see if that works. With the trades we made, we have some ability to move players around, as well as getting 2 other goaltenders back, one being a 74 overall unsigned goaltender, who that is doing very well in the Liga, as well as, he could be a decent part of our future, as well as a backup goalie in Eric Comrie, who is under contract for another year. Stats not great, but it just provides another, more veteran option to our option pool, because getting rid of Luukkonen, we have basically one other goalie that could compete for that backup spot, and that is Cale Clague here, which is actually doing very well this year, right? He had a rough start in Rochester on an AHL team, but this year he's proven to be, really well, or doing really well. 25 games played, 18-5-2 with 2 shutouts. Save percentage, goals against are pretty good. I mean, he's been doing really solid. So whether it's time to bring him up or put Comrie in there, I'm not sure just yet, but it does give us an option of both Clay and Comrie. So this is going to go through a 4th-round pick. We're going to have to make a couple of roster changes, get some line change as well. But this is how everything's going to look post middle of the season trading. So Benson now up on the first line. Krebs gotten up a promotion up to the second line. Batherson comes in on the second line right wing spot. Middlestat retains his position in the second line center. Kulich comes up, third line for him. Cousins still not performing great. He will be on our third line. Peterka gets dropped down to the third line as well. And then our defense looks something like this for now. I might end up changing it up. still haven't figured it out yet, but maybe we'll just rotate some stuff through. But Dahlin and Dumba, Power and Pesci, Chychrun and Faber, we'll keep it like that. For now, we're going to keep Eric Comrie up here on our NHL team. If he doesn't really perform or has, some rough games, maybe we'll bring up Clague. Not 100% sure yet. All right, 2019-4. Let's continue this season strong. Let's try to get to a good point. But I know I didn't really mention it beforehand, but we were sitting at 40 points when we started this. And in order to get into the playoffs right now, the mark is 44 points. And then after that, we need to be basically in a wild card spot, unless we go on a really good run. But then after 44 points is that 50 points. Then once we get to 50, then maybe we can start talking about that 54. But we need to win some games between now and then. That's for sure. So let's win some games here. We got one versus Vegas. Lost in overtime. We'll take the points at least. Anaheim win. Lost versus Seattle. All right, let's keep going a couple weeks at a time here just so we can kind of keep track of what's going on. Coach is getting fired left and right. Big win versus the Sharks and Arizona. Bigger loss to Boston there, but a couple of wins in a row there. All right, so now let's take a check-in here. So we are at 54 points, so we are out of reach a little bit for the Atlantic playoff spot in third place. So we will have to try to go through the wild card, which we have a holy cow battle between everybody. So 48 through... Wow. So we got some competition this year. That's for sure. So, but realistically, we are 4 points off of a playoff spot, and I have a very strong feeling this is going to come down to the last, 2 weeks of the season. So, let's advance a couple more weeks here. Then we got the trade deadline to look forward to. See if we need any last-minute, additions, or see if there's anything that we could kind of do to help our season out. All right, a couple of wins and a loss in there brings us to 31, 23, and 6. So, okay, let's check in here. Where are we in the playoff push? We are 10 points off of the third place spot, so most likely out of reach if we're being realistic. And then we are only 4 points off from the Penguins and the Blue Jackets as far as the third wild card spot goes. And we're a few points ahead of everybody else kind of fighting for those spots. But let's take a look at the team stats, kind of see where we're at, because of course we want to see where all these new additions are. So Zach Benson seems to be coming on strong on the first line, so we will take that. Middlestat still doing his thing. Batherson, 11 points in 17 games. Again, not terrible. Krebs doing a little bit better since his recent promotion. Cousins slowly figuring it out on the third line. Paterka, whatever. Where is... Kulik, 7 points in 17 games. Again, not terrible. He's still figuring it out on the third line. Of course, we got him in on the power play as well. So he's slowly figuring it out there. Pesci, his season plus minus has come down a little bit. There we go. 5 points in 17 games plus 5. We will take that, right? So a big improvement there. So when you look at this screen, doesn't look great, but you look at what they're doing with us so far, and that's what we're looking for. Jacob Chychrun, 1 point, minus 3. Also, Owen Power slowly figuring it out as well. I didn't mention his name yet. But yeah, something's got to change with Chychrun. So I know he's playing the second line right now. Do I want to throw him on the third line? I'm not sure. Comrie. This was the big question mark. 2-1-2, 19 goals allowed in 7 games. But assuming we're going to be riding Levi's hot hand down the stretch, I guess I'm going to leave it for now. I guess maybe that'll be a preseason battle next year. But let's go take a look at the team stats and see if there's anything we drastically need at the trade deadline. All right, here we are team stats-wise, and we currently sit 13th overall in the entire league, which is solid. Again, record of 31, 23, and 6, which puts us at 206 goals for, which, if you look at the top teams, at least the teams up, top of your screen there, 241, 227. So, of course, we did lose some goal-scoring ability with Quinn and with Skinner, but we had to do something, right? But then also goals against 201. We are lowest kind of overall there for the top teams. Then moving on, our power play, 19.6%. Not great, but just under, probably in the top 15 at least. Shorthanded goes where we're not on there. We are not on there, so that means we are kind of in the middle of the pack. So we have a 77 point, that's not even us. We have an 81.7% penalty kill, which is pretty good, right? 81, I mean, we look at the top guys, we're probably sitting top 10, top 15 or so, so we will take that. Plus, we have a good home record. Our away record could be better, but that's where the overtime losses come in, as well as 7-3 in the last 10. So, not great, but we seem to be going on the right track here as we approach the trade deadline. Now, of course, we did make 2 big trades, so I don't anticipate any other big trades. But I'm going to scroll through the trade block, see if anything else is out there. If not, then we'll get on with the rest of the year. So following the trade deadline, we only made 2 more moves, and they're both not very significant. But we did trade away Eric Comrie, our backup goaltender, over to, I think it was the Florida Panthers, in exchange for Jacob Markstrom, who has been doing incredible for them, but for some reason was on their trade block. So, a good goaltender, doing well, gonna take that, right? Other than that, we did acquire a former player of ours. So we're gonna simulate about a week at a time or so, mainly to keep injuries and especially a big eye on the playoff race. So, okay, so we are at the 10th, 17th it is. Gotta get some wins here, right? That's most important. Wins in points. So Zach Benson out with a concussion. Olofsson pops up to the first line. So I'm glad we got a player there. Now, if that was a center, maybe even a right wing, maybe we bring up Savoy, maybe we do something else. But for now, we're going to leave Olofsson up on the first line and bring Pearson back in. Well, a few different injuries just happened. We just lost Levi to an injured foot. He should be out for about a week or so, as well as a couple of AHL guys. So we're already starting to lose some numbers. So let's go a few more days here and see where we're at. So Levi, I know you're back, but at the same time, you have an injured foot. So we're going to go to in between the Florida and the Montreal game. Same thing with Benson. I don't want to rush him back, right? He has a concussion. So after a flurry of injuries, we currently sit 71 games played. Our record's not great. We've lost a little bit in the last, actually we run a, 6 game losing streak, so that's good. Right at the right time, of course. So 68 points, it looks like 3rd place in our division's out of reach, so we'd have to do extremely well to get to that point. But then the big thing is that wild card spot, right? 72 points, so we're 4 points off. We can still do it, but we have lots of competition as well. So let's advance a couple more games here and see where we sit. We're just going to continue. Those guys can sit there and do whatever they want. So again, another flurry of injuries puts us a few games later, and we currently sit, 8 points off from a playoff spot. So we're going to go game at a time here and hope for the best, right? We need all of the wins, pretty much, right? Every single win we could possibly need, we need to get right now. And I hate to do that at the last part of the season, but that's where we put ourselves, right? So big wins there, 74 points. So 80 is the number right now. We could tie it right now with 4 games left, but then we got a couple other teams. So we need to win out, basically, and then we might have a shot. And that might even have put us out there. And I don't think it's likely here, but we'll play it out and see how it goes. Thompson, 95 points. There's a loss. I'm pretty sure that pretty much solidifies it. Another year, another playoff drought. Well, another disappointing year. We sent Kulik down just so he could play in the AHL playoffs. And, I'd love to be able to send more players down, but, can't really do that. So, yeah, a couple of losses to end the year. Just, again, not a good season overall. But that's going to do it for this episode. I know it's a little bit of a longer one, at least for me. It's been over an hour recording, but it definitely will be cut down a significant amount, that's for sure. But again, what do I say? Another disappointing year. You know, we made some good moves at the end. I mean, hopefully that will, you know, help us out for next year. But if we don't start winning soon, we're going to need to start doing something. That's for sure. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the support on the channel. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button down below. We're trying to get to our goals as well. So please hit the subscribe button. And as always, guys, we'll see you in the next one.